So I believe there's two types of people in the world: growth-minded, fixed-minded. Growth mindset, fixed mindset. You may have heard about this. Carol Dweck wrote a book about it. She coined these terms. It's a very easy, simple way. Obviously, it's a reductionist way to think about different things and how you think about things. But it is a very useful heuristic to always analyze how you're thinking and whether your thoughts and your mental models are bringing you what you want in life. So it reminds me of this quote by George Bernard Shaw. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. So every new technology, idea, way of doing things is always the thing that propels society forward, even if it fails, right? Because now it's one more data point that lets us figure out what may work or what we should try next. It's experimentation. Everything around me in this room right now, all the comforts that we have in modern society are the result of people experimenting and being optimistic, people that wanted to elicit change and improve things. Without a massive obsession with what could be, what might work, and then getting in and trying that, we wouldn't have what we have today. We wouldn't have the world we have. And it's funny because the amount of comfort and prosperity we have is at the highest it's ever been in human civilization. And we've had a lot of people, a whole movement around 2020 and even in 2021 of this victim culture narrative about how life is so terrible and you should hate your country and all these different things. All progress depends on the growth-minded. All progress in your personal life depends on growth-minded or your growth mindset. How are you thinking about this thing? Have you connected? I can take actions here. I can learn from those actions I take, and then I can keep taking actions and I can build and grow. Or is it, oh, it's too hard, it's this, it's that, it's not fair, and I'm going to do nothing? Which do you think makes you more fragile in a universe that's always changing? The things around you are always changing. Markets, relationships, families, friends, your health, it's always changing. The fixed mindset tries to cling to comforts in the way things are because that's easier for the brain. You don't have to do a lot of work. You don't have to change your habits. You don't have to change your lifestyle. Humans are programmed this way from our ancestral past because the unknown was dangerous, could be a death sentence. We had to be very careful. We had to be paranoid. And so Mother Nature programmed us, and the genes were selected to be extra paranoid, extra careful, and extra resistant to change. In our modern world, where technologies are rapidly advancing, things are changing all the time, where we have a real opportunity to bring a massive amount of wealth and prosperity to everyone, it requires thinking different. It requires every single step of the way challenging the step you're on. Challenging that ladder that we're on so that we can get to the next one. And a lot of things have to be destroyed or innovated out, or we would still have horse shit in the streets. Somebody predicted, funny, I think the New York Times predicted that in like 10 years when the horses were a thing, that there would be 12 feet of horse manure on every street in New York. Like, I don't even know how you'd get around that, or I guess people would shovel pathways and you would just have horse shit everywhere. Fortunately, Ford came along and created the assembly line in the car, and that pretty much ended the horse dependency that we had. And I bet you a lot of horse breeders and trainers and a lot of industries based on horses didn't like the car coming along. But aren't you glad the car came along? Or shipping containers, or airplanes, or the fact that most food doesn't kill you. That was actually the origin of the first brand. The origin of the first brand related to food because people needed to know that, oh, this is a Heinz product. That means they've done it a certain way. It's going to be safe. It's not just some dude in his back room making some canned tomatoes and then potentially going to kill me. Botulism is something that can kill you. If there's even a little bit of air in something like a canned tomato, and that can grow, and it can be bad. So brands came along so that people could trust the food they were buying. Brand equals trust. That's all it is. It's a promise. Here are a few questions in your life that you should be asking yourself, okay? Do you cling to your current ideas, habits, and routines? How often are you trying new things? How often are you saying, I changed my mind? I was wrong. How often are you even saying, I need to think about that? Anytime somebody tells me something along the lines of interesting, or I haven't really thought about that, or I need to think about that for a bit and get back to you, I'm immediately taken back with like respect. It's charisma, it's confidence, because it shows me that they're not just saying some nonsense. Like it infers trust. I'm more likely to trust that person because I feel like they've spent time to analyze something before giving me an answer or just running their mouth off. Whereas most people today just pretty much gut reaction, say whatever is on the top of their mind, and they don't really analyze it. They don't really take each side of the argument and try to objectively, critically think about it. They just like say something emotional, or they're just trolling and they say whatever. Do you always find ways why something's not going to work? Do you have a negativity bias? Are you always focused on the problems of things, or do you see the possibilities in them? It's a spectrum. So you should understand the negatives of something and the pitfalls and the issues. You shouldn't just be blindly optimistic, but you have to focus on the optimism. You have to have hope, and you have to believe in the possibility more so than you're afraid of the things that might be a problem or a hindrance or block or make it fail completely. All progress depends on hope and possibility in your life, in society, human civilization, and it's not going to change. Yet most people default to wanting to explain the way things are. They want to explain why something happened or why something's not going to work. They have that negativity bias. It's way easier to be negative than it is to be positive. It's way easier to pick apart the reasons why something's not going to work than focus on the ways that maybe it could work and maybe I should experiment and figure it out. It's way easier to justify how things are and why they should stay that way than it is to experiment with or hypothesize on new ideas and ways of doing things. All progress depends on the growth mindset, your growth mindset. So start thinking about that for your life and how to apply it more, how to grow the growth mindset and grow a growth perspective and positivity, and how to continually weed away those negative thoughts and those negative mental models. Make sure you get the Better Human newsletter over at colin.coach. And all my work is supported by Wild Foods, my company. And one of our flagship products, Wild Cocotropic, you can use this to replace your coffee if you're dealing with adrenal issues, as I think I have lately. So I'm going to try to do kind of a hot cocoa in the morning to lower my caffeine intake, get some L-theanine in here, which is more of a steady release of caffeine and gives kind of a mood boost. Also good for focus in the morning, because lately I've not been feeling that great the last few mornings. Even recording this video, I wasn't going to do it, but I decided that I was just going to do it. And I feel like I've become dependent on coffee a little bit too much. I'm opting for that second cup early in the day, which I never do. And that's a sign for me to cycle and to break it up. And so Cocotropic is perfect for that. You can do smoothies, you can do shakes, you can do it just hot water, add a little bit of honey if you want, sweetener. The sky's the limit. It's unsweetened, no sugar, adaptogenic superfoods with a little bit of caffeine, just a little bit, right? This isn't caffeine free because cocoa does have caffeine in it, but it's also got the L-theanine and some other magical properties of the medicinal mushrooms to give you focus, clarity, and just make you feel awesome. And if you don't want to give your coffee right now, or you don't need to, you can actually add this to coffee and make a delicious Cocotropic coffee beverage. The sky's the limit. You can actually get a bag, wildcocotropic.com or wildfoods.co. It'll work either way. Use code WILDCEO for 12% off your entire order. Keep this in your pantry as a staple. Maybe it'll become your new morning routine. I appreciate the support. Again, get on that newsletter, and I'll see you in the next one.